The deficit is over $500 million. That is what he presented. This is not me speaking, Mr. Speaker, on my own. This is what was presented to this Honorable House by the member for City West and Prime Minister. And so, Mr. Speaker, when you look at it, the question is he speaking the truth? Because there's one thing, numbers don't lie. $500 million, 1.6 billion. When you go into the estimates, Mr. Speaker, which I'll do briefly because I don't want to spend too much time on this, you're going to see a different story. Now, Mr. Speaker, I want to say here that when you look at his articulation in the budget statement, there's one other thing that jumps out at me, and I want to read it for the edification of this Honorable House. And Mr. Speaker, he says here on page 1, I think on page 2, and Mr. Speaker, before I continue, I want to register to this Honorable House again that I had extreme difficulty in getting this document. It was not online, the budget statement. Mr. Speaker, I am saying to you it's not online, it is not. And secondly, Mr. Speaker, it wasn't presented with the estimates. I said it last year, why is the Prime Minister, member for City West, have a reluctance in making the statement available along with the estimates? I had to call his office to get a copy of the statement. Mr. Speaker, let me move on, right? Because I don't want to waste much time on it. It says here, Mr. Speaker, undoubtedly, the COVID-19 pandemic battered our economy in 2020 and 2021, as it did every country in the world without exception. But we bounced back through solid leadership to achieve 5.3% economic growth in 2021 as assessed by the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. I'm quoting him here. Mr. Speaker, that is a lie. And member for City West, I can look you in the face and tell you that is a lie. So I researched it, Mr. Speaker, because obviously it sounds nice. So I went to the website of the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank. I went there because they publish information based on the Eastern Caribbean, all the Eastern Caribbean countries. And Mr. Speaker, what was reported there, and I want the members of this Honorable House to understand, and the people of Antigua and Barbuda. Antigua and Barbuda recorded a growth of 1.76% in 2021. I wasn't satisfied. I said, this cannot be right. There's a vast difference between 1.76 and 5.3%. So, Mr. Speaker, I took up the phone and I called the central bank and asked to speak to the statistics department on data for the Eastern Caribbean Currency Union. I said, no, maybe they made a mistake. And I'm not going to expose the lady's name. And she said to me, I said to her, listen, in our budget presentation, as quoted by Prime Minister and the Minister of Finance, he said that Antigua and Barbuda economy grew by 5.3%. And there is a variance because when I look at what you have on your website, 1.67%, doesn't add up. The lady said, give me a minute. I hold on. She said she had to call me back. I didn't think she would. After about less than an hour, 45 minutes to 50 minutes, she called me back. And she verified that what's printed on the Eastern Caribbean Central Bank Facebook page is what is the growth recorded for Antigua and Barbuda. So remember, when you wrap up, explain to this nation, where does 5.3% come from? And bring to this Honorable House and circulate it in here, the document that you have that says Antigua and Barbuda. That is verified by the central bank, reported 5.3% growth. Do that for us. I have no problem, just do that for us. And Mr. Speaker, you hear my presentation is entitled Deception and Flattery. That's the deception, so I move on. So I went and I looked at other economic variables, the growth rate for other Eastern Caribbean countries. And Mr. Speaker, Antigua and Barbuda, 1.76%. Dominica, 3.1%, grew more than Antigua and Barbuda. St. Lucia, 6.35%. And you're going to come and tell me the honesty of this government.
Trevor, you're going on the wrong line.
Well, this is all the best.
Trevor, you're going on the wrong line.
You want us to trust you? That cannot be right, Mr. Speaker. That cannot be right. So when you're quoting ECCB, Mr. Speaker, you must apologize to the Honorable House and to the people of Antigua and Barbuda. Verify it when you wrap up. So, Mr. Speaker, I move on. And if you notice, Mr. Speaker, no mention was ever made of ECLAC or the IMF, right? Because you don't want to deal with those things, all right? So, Mr. Speaker, let me move on, right? Member for St. Philip South, you'll get your chance. St. Philip South, you'll get your chance, man. Listen, you must listen, all right? So let me move on, Mr. Speaker, all right? So I'm not expecting that. Listen, man, listen and you wrap up. You have a chance to wrap up. That is the thing with him, you know, Mr. Speaker. He has the best, 2 batting he gets. So take your notes, man, take your notes. And you come back and give me your explanation for that deliberate error that you made. So, Mr. Speaker, you're talking about these figures, you know. And up to now, I heard him on his radio station on Saturday talking about IMF Article 4 report. Went through a slew of what they said. Make it public. Make the Article 4 report of the IMF public to the people of Antigua and Barbuda to examine. Mr. Speaker, I went on the website. Every country in the ECCU, every one of them, the Articles 4 report is made public, except Antigua and Barbuda. What, something to hide? Why is it that you don't want the people of Antigua and Barbuda to see the economic performance of Antigua and Barbuda? Make it public. Make it public so that we can scrutinize it, man. That's what transparency is about. All of them, Mr. Speaker, asking me, when you're going to speak, when you're going to speak. Deal with these things. That is what it's about. You run the country. It's about transparency and accountability. That is what it's about. Don't hide these things and then come and give us a bogus growth rate of 5.3% as if we don't know any better. As if I'm not going to check it. As if other people are not going to check it. So come on. Mr. Speaker, let me move on. All right? So, Mr. Speaker, I spoke about the deficit, and that is very important. You're talking about 1.6 billion, and